Hello, you beautiful individuals. Today, we are not looking at this. Just wanted it up in the beginning to show and remind everyone that, yeah, I have a debate versus Mr. Kent Hovind. So, that should be fun. It's October 18th. It's 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. I'll do a more proper thing getting closer to that. Just wanted to remind everyone. Now, 1 second. Alright, now that both of those hideous faces are off the computer there, let's look at the video. Mr. Salmonella, out of nowhere, came back, which is awesome. I mean, like I said in the video I covered his randomly, been a huge fan of him for quite a while, and yeah, it's really cool to see him back. So, we're going to look at his video, what animals' scientific names come from.
Hey kids. I just woke up from a nap I took in January of 2020, and boy are my arms tired. Let's see what I missed. Queen's dead, war in Ukraine, the Taliban's back. What is... Holy shit. They made a movie called Scoob.
So if you don't know and haven't watched him, obviously the video and his channel will be linked below. He does mostly, learning educational videos, but obviously has a very comedic twist. He has a very dry sense of humor, but I really enjoy it. He does cuss a lot, so if that's not what you're into, whatever. But obviously 4 million people are, or at least 767,000. Or 119,000 comments. Dear Lord, he just posted this like 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days. Wow. I mean, obviously has a lot of subscribers and stuff, but yeah, I mean, like it was 2 years ago he last posted something.
Unprecedented global pandemic, Space Jam 2, some popular guy named Brandon. Yep, that just about covers it. Anyway, we all know about the scientific names of animals, but did you ever wonder what they actually mean? To find out, we must look to taxonomists. They're the guys responsible for the systems of nomenclature we use to classify organisms, and boy are they convoluted. First you got the big 8, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I've seen plenty of mnemonic...
And I've saved this video for reacting to, because I knew I wanted to. So I haven't watched it, but I do believe, well, he did say the big 8, so yeah, I'm sure he'll talk about the other ones too.
Like devices for this, but since the D just showed up in the 90s and is still disputed by some scientists, he's usually not included. So allow me to suggest a few. Dizzy kids puke cereal on fairground staff. Dumb kittens pushing cups over feeds growing spite. Donkey Kong's fucking serendipitously.
I mean, I have no idea why I find him so funny. But I mean, he is, really, but like, I don't know. If you don't find it funny, I mean, I get it, but he kills me.
The way this whole thing works differs slightly depending on which kingdom you pick. So today we'll be sticking to the animal one, cause that one's the coolest and I'm in it. So what constitutes each taxon is pretty arbitrary. They basically just serve to act as another set of branches in the tree that taxonomists build. The one exception is species, which is generally defined as any group of animals that can have babies with each other that aren't sterile freaks. Mule.
See, and I was hoping he would go this way with the video. I thought this would be fitting since my debate is on evolution. Not that he's covering evolution, but kind of is. I mean, it's all intertwined, obviously. So yeah, I definitely thought that would be fitting. Yeah, and just a couple other things which he might say, but the animal kingdom, I guess, as you want to call it, that we're in, I believe has the most number of species, but I don't know about the number of population, like amount of the number of organisms. That I'm not sure on. I want to say we're not. I definitely am most likely wrong. I just know that like humans only make up, 0.01 something really small like that percent of the actual life on the planet, and I believe it's fairly similar with most animals. But again, I definitely could be wrong on that. I'd have to look it up, but I'm not going to.
liger, zedonk, skunk ape. They can live fulfilling lives, but they're all shooting blanks, so they don't count. On the other hand, in our innumerable trespasses against God, we can make things like chidandanes, which actually work, so dogs are dogs are dogs. Besides...
That's like, man, sounded like Ken Hovind there, which I don't know if that's what he's going for, but that's pretty funny. And yeah, I mean, that's basically the kind of, not the defining characteristic, but one of the defining characteristics of species is if they can reproduce. And obviously not all of them can. So some are subspecies, some are kind of just freaks in a way, for lack of a better term. But yeah, not all are species, as he was pointing out with his interesting examples.
Species, though, it's the Wild West in here. Plenty of times, 8 tiers isn't even enough for scientists, so they just stick new sublevels in between. Legions, cohorts, tribes, series, divisions, and if you want to keep going...
See, and that's what I was getting at earlier. Like, you could see there's much more than just those. That's because, I don't know, to me, science in general does... They don't have a problem with it. It's just... A lot of times it seems like they make things more complicated than it needs to be. And again, there's obviously reasons for that, but, you know, I don't know. I'm too simple-minded to really talk on that.
And you can throw all kinds of prefixes on any of these for even more layers. There's even subspecies, which the more pedantic of you may think to yourselves that creating names for subspecies at all kind of undermines the single somewhat agreed upon definition in the whole tree. To that, my friends taxonomists say, But while that's pretty complex, the actual names themselves are pretty easy to wrap your head around. Though taxonomists may hide behind their fancy Greek and Latin, the Vulgate is no substitute for wit. Now, I've scraped through the scientific names of a load of species, and most of them can be split into a few categories. The simplest ones are the animals that already have names in Greek or Latin. It's a lion, I'm calling it Leo. Done. Tiger, it's a tigris. Cat, it's a catus. Easy. Multi-word names can be translated the same way. For the golden eagle, we got Aquila chrysaetos. Gold eagle eagle. They decided to be a show-off and do eagle in Greek and Latin. Essentially the same though. But if a species is too specific or exotic for a one-to-one translation, that's when you gotta get a little creative. A lot of the time, inspiration comes from just giving the creature the old once-over and pointing out some cool-looking body part. Generally, the more distinct of an identifying feature it is, the more likely it'll get in the name. For example, Homeboy took one look at this thing and said, yup, red triangle slug.
And that's very true. And he might go on, it can be after celebrities a lot of the times, or just people that were famous or influential in the original finder's, personal life. Yeah, I mean, they really, like he said, it's kind of the Wild West. They have free reign to name it whatever they want. I mean, within limits, but yeah, there's not like, I'm sure there is at least a guideline, but it's definitely not one that's followed strictly.
I'm going on break. We call this thing a fucking unicorn, almost like that means one horn or something. Also, some guy deadass looked at an octopus and said, well, all they got is heads and feet. I'ma call them headfoot. And now biologists everywhere say cephalopod unironically. Matter of fact, if it's got feet, chances are that's part of its name somewhere. You got 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 2 feet, equal feet, both feet, double feet, stomach feet, lip feet, sucker feet, wing feet, big feet, slow feet, or feet, both feet, joint feet, no feet, 10,000 feet, cow's feet, spade feet, cat feet, small feet. If it doesn't look...
See, and that's another reason I really enjoy his content. Like, he's just a really good content creator. It obviously takes a lot of time, and even though it looks simple and probably not that complicated, I mean, there's definitely a fair amount of effort that goes into this. So I don't know. I would one day love to even be half as, the quality that he puts out.
Look that interesting. Another thing to point out is where you found it. This could be a territory like American bear or Siamese crocodile, or just a habitat like woods macaque or toilet rat. But that's boring. We need to look at the men behind the magic and what drives and motivates them. Now, if there's one thing that the scientific community loves, it's clout. And there's no better way to go down in history than plastering your own name on some shit you found. But not all fields have the same volume of things to scribble the old John Hancock over. On the one end, you got physicists just making up their own slightly different form of ionizing radiation measurement, and even then only the top dogs got away with it. Now zoology, any little goober flouncing through the underbrush can say, this one has 13 spots, but the one in the book's only got 11. I will call him Splinkus's ladybird. Alternatively, plenty of biologists have given shout-outs to their contemporaries, both other biologists and those across the academic gamut, from geologists to physicists to explorers and more. Naturally, Darwin's got a shitload, but even the background characters get immortalized one way or another. Who are Thomson, Grant, Summering, Erlanger, Speke, and Cuvier?
Before we get into that, just wanted to bring a quick point up about Darwin. So, I've had a few comments already, a fair amount, that, and I've seen a lot more in other videos, that automatically equate evolution and Darwin. Darwin might have been a very influential and early pioneer of evolution, but he doesn't, it's not that he doesn't matter, but he kind of doesn't anymore. Evolution now is, like any science field, is based on the back of the people who are doing it now, who are putting in countless hours and unbelievably hard work going from just getting to this point that they're at to be able to do that job or research or whatever. So you just stop equating those two. It's not the same thing. Darwin is not evolution. Evolution is not Darwin. He was just a pioneer. I mean, it's like if you automatically went, okay, I'll never fly in a plane because the Wright brothers made that one plane that, yeah, it flew a little bit, but obviously didn't fly very far. So I can never fly in a plane. That's just crazy. Like, no, it doesn't make sense. It's the same kind of crazy logic that you're trying to discount evolution just based on Darwin, which just doesn't make sense at all. Anyway, sorry. Tangent over.
I don't know, but they've all got gazelles, so they must be pretty cool. Of course, other times the name checks go to people who had fuck all to do with anything except for one taxonomist being a fan of theirs. Plenty of popular celebrities have species named after them, but since all the big cute stuff was found and branded a while ago, most of these idols are commemorated through repulsive little invertebrates. You got Scaptia, Beyonce. The only similarity I can gather here is queen bee, looks like a bee, both not a real bee. There's Anomphilus gregarius, an old stone named after an old stone. In 2007, one Jason Bond, a professor of biology at UC Davis, dubbed this little dude Myrmecia Neil Youngie to honor his favorite musician, which caused my man Stephen Colbert to go on TV and profess his utter indignation at not having a spider named after himself. So naturally, the next year, Bond actually went on the Colbert Report to announce the naming of apostachis Stephen Colbert. So, if that gives any of you epic biologists out there any ideas, you know, I wouldn't be opposed. Please, I would do anything. For the love of God, I'll even take a lichen. The world of politics is by...
I could see that. I could definitely see a scientist out there naming something after him simply for enjoying his content, because they can. They really can do what they want, and that's, you know, it's fair. They're the ones discovering it.
By no means immune to this phenomenon. Obama alone has fucking 9, as do a load of other presidents. Trump's got a moth with funny hair, Bush has a fungus beetle, Reagan's a wasp, Carter's got a darter, and so forth. Even Austria's most famous painter got the honor through this blind...
Germany's most famous painter. What a great, just hilarious way to say Hitler.
Cave beetle. Mind you, it was 1933, so you can only blame the guy a tiny bit. Hitler actually wrote him a letter saying, "Oh, thank you, my little entomologisch," and then went on to do, you know, Hitler things. Fun fact, not only was this beetle stuck with just about the worst name you could have, it's also now facing extinction solely because of its value to Nazi memorabilia collectors. Guess old habits die hard. Oop.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Fictional characters have their fair share of species under their belt. On the topic of evil beetles, this one's named after Darth Vader because he kinda looks like his helmet, I guess. This was actually named by the same guy who did the Bush one and belongs to the same genus. There's also this mite, genus Darth Vaderum, which is a lot more accurate and frightening. In 2012, a single bone from above the eye socket of a hitherto unidentified theropod dinosaur was being studied. And suddenly, under the light of the full moon, the guy working with the specimen had his neck covered with hair and his lips clenched into a pog and his endocrine system filled with soy, and he said, "It's just like the eye of Sauron." And then he started chewing on Funko Pops and sweating cream of meme and snorting G Fuel and shitting D20s everywhere until the prostate stimulation made him the dino's...
Wow. Yeah. I mean, once again, that's why you gotta love him. I mean, he just has a way with words, doesn't he?
Genus is now Sauroniops, from Eye of Sauron. This spider was named after Godric Gryffindor because it looks like the Sorting Hat. SpongeBob has not a sponge, but a fungus. The legendary birds from Pokemon each have their own, you guessed it, beetle, and the list goes on. Scientists...
That's definitely did not know that. I am a Pokemon fan. I guess I should say used to be when I was a kid. I still am. I mean, I have the whatever it's called, Legend of Arceus or something like that for Switch. I haven't played as much of it as I've wanted to. Maybe I might do that tonight. Anyway.
Just are nerds. Who knew? Anyway, while this all seems kind of chaotic, there is some method to the madness. One rule is the principle of priority. This states that once somebody publishes their chosen name for a species for the first time, that's the name, and other taxonomists typically can't change it. This has led to plenty of misnomers coined by whoever got their foot in the door first, particularly in the case of the guys doing this stuff before we had the luxury of genetic analysis. Here's one. Red panda? Nah. Shining cat, coined in 1825. To be fair, they're actually about as close to cats as they are to actual pandas, so whatever. Here's two. Capsicum chinense. Eaten there? Sure. Native? Only off by around half a globe, where literally all hot peppers came from. This principle holds true even if someone thinks they found a new species, only to later discover that it was already named. For example, in 1824, one John Edward Gray documented the plains zebra, calling it Equus burchellii, or Burchell's horse, named after a renowned naturalist of the day. Little did he know, back in 1785, some other douche classified this character as the quagga. The last quagga died in a Dutch prison in 1883. So, why do we care? Well, in the 2000s, scientists decided to scrape some gunk off a dry quagga pelt and study its DNA. And from that they realized, wait a minute, apparently this guy and zebras could have, made a little plaid in the hay together. So technically they're one species. And today they're both called quagga. Sounds kinda asinine, but then again so does asinus and that.
And honestly, right there is a fantastic example of evolution. I mean, it's not a great, like, crazy different trait, but different enough that you can see the older style obviously falling out for whatever reason. I don't know. It could be just what the zebras prefer or some other, different kind of thing going on. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but it is an example of how things do evolve. That's the thing. Like, even when, like, Mr. Hovind tries to deny evolution, in his worldview, things still had to have evolved. You didn't have every species that we have today, even just land species, on the so-called ark. But clearly those that were there created everything we have today, would have had to. The only reason, unless God's just adding stuff here and there, which, I mean, maybe that's what he believes, but from what I've seen, it's not. So he still believes in evolution, he just believes in a very rapid, even crazier form of it.
That worked out fine. Just to maintain the distinction, the extinct subspecies was renamed quagga quagga, so you know it's the real quagga. This double naming convention has been done with a lot of subspecies, in fact. Wild horse, spotted panther, or my favorite, gorilla. Just like, yeah, it's the gorillest gorilla that ever gorilled. Fuck you want from me. A closely related
I think there's one with buffaloes too, if I'm not mistaken.
Rule also states that the names of all taxa have to be unique. So if two people coincidentally name any taxa on the same thing, the older one gets to stay and the new one gets the boot. Like if you saw a genus called echidna, you'd think it was, an echidna, right? Well, no, that'd make too much sense. For a while it was true, from 1797 to 1811. Then it was pointed out that someone else already called a genus of moray eels echidna back in 1788. So the real echidna had to be changed to tachyglossus, or quick tongue. Then a decade later, a dude did the same thing for a genus of vipers. Another 22 years passed, people discovered the same thing, and they were renamed to Bitis, cause they bit us. That one at least made a bit of sense, given that the original echidna from Greek mythology was half lady, half snake, but who cares at this point. Anyway, I've just barely scraped the surface of all the goofy names out there, so feel free to post more down below. That's all I've got for now. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and I'll see ya in 2025.
Yeah, and there you go. That's, hopefully it's not 2025, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I don't care. I like his channel. I'll always come back to it happily. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And, oh, wait, one thing. Sorry. If you already clicked off, too late, but whatever. I will finish the Ohio video. I want to do that tomorrow. I'm going to release that tomorrow, is what is my plans. So, yeah. Anyway, till next time.